Hey guys, welcome back to Trek on the Tube and welcome to my review of Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 1, Brother. If you're new to the channel, my review videos are pretty straightforward. I first share my opinions and thoughts, and then move into a quick breakdown of all of the Easter eggs and references to existing Star Trek I can find. This video specifically will be slightly different, because at the end I'm also going to announce the winner of the giveaway I organized in my DVD overview. You can check that out by clicking the link in the description. I'll also add my full Season 1 review if you want to have a better idea of where I stand regarding Discovery. Generally speaking, that is. It might help you better understand where I'm coming from in this review. And I also did a conversation with two good Trekkie friends of mine over at the Starfleet Boy channel, so I'll put the link in the description for that as well. You can check that out. We had a good time. Okay, so let's jump right in. Brother. For starters, the episode was an hour long, and I love the idea of giving the show more freedom with its runtime. Some stories need more time to be told, whereas others need to be over quick to have more impact. It's just that you gotta be careful. When misused, the runtime can also hurt an episode. Rest assured, that's not the case here, although for me personally, time didn't fly by. I mean, I felt it was an hour long. There's one scene in particular where Burnham, Pike, and two other officers are flying around in asteroid debris that I would have just cut altogether. It would seem that other people really enjoyed the moment, but I found it unnecessary and quite long. Sometimes even a little hard to read. Everything is so fast-paced it becomes kind of a blur. I feel like removing that scene would have created a more focused episode. It would have helped the pacing. I gotta admit though, that is probably my only real complaint. Yeah, the dialogue sometimes seems a little forced, and the way the technology and plot development are written still remains very simplistic. Even, straight up dumb sometimes. But the overall story of the episode really worked. There's an anomaly to investigate, people to save, and flashbacks to Burnham's childhood. If you're still not exactly won over by the writing, keep in mind that this episode specifically was written by Berg and Hobbits. They were the showrunners for Season 1, but are now no longer associated with the show. This episode might reflect their creative vision, and we might see a shift as the season progresses, much like The Next Generation did in its second and third season. Anyway, I loved Captain Christopher Pike, obviously. Anson Mount's performance is outstanding, and the character brings a certain Star Trek feel that was missing in Season 1. He's happy, he's confident, he's not an asshole, he gets an amazing introduction with an inspiring speech, and his presence even enables us to get a nice roll call of the bridge officers we know so little about. At one point, his awesomeness is undercut by the ever-arrogant and inexplicably good at everything all the time Burnham, but it's a small moment, and ultimately it's not enough to dim the beacon of light that is Pike. What's interesting is that sentiment right there is kind of how I feel about the episode in itself. There's good, there's bad, but the bad is never so bad, never so extremely terrible that it can drag the episode down. It's just kind of details that bug me. For example, there's some really good character moments between Burnham and Pike, and interesting Spock-Burnham backstory being developed. Those are important elements, and they take up a lot of the episode. But then the episode also brings us one of the saddest attempts at humor ever seen on screen, when Linus the Saurian sneezes on Lieutenant Connolly in the turbolift. It's cringy, it's out of place, it feels like a deleted scene from the Orville. It's just horrible, but it is a detail. Also, Burnham and Saru have had this brother-sister relationship for years, but he never thought to mention his real sister. I mean, does everyone in Star Trek refuse to talk about their siblings or something? Regarding the technology and costumes, it's the same thing. There's good and there's bad. You get original series-style uniforms that are established as new, and I really like that. You get these over-the-top, kind of corny EV suits that fit right into the original series era, and these pattern enhancers that visually make sense as older versions of those seen in The Next Generation. You also get this Geordi LaForge type visor, which is also an older version of what the visor becomes in The Next Generation. So, I mean, great success regarding that. You can see that they put some work and effort into designing these. But then you get this trash. A metal frisbee that magically unfolds into a huge gravity simulator. Helmets that just appear out of nowhere. Holograms coming out the wazoo. Look, I know compression technology, nanotechnology, whatever you want to call it, has become a big thing in the sci-fi and superhero genres recently, just like holograms have. Look at Captain Marvel's helmet, Iron Man's suit, vibranium. That kind of far-fetched, almost magical, fantasy-like technology does have its place in movies and TV series based on comic books or set in the space fantasy genre. But Star Trek has always made a point of bringing us plausible technology we can work towards, and it has also made a point of justifying seemingly improbable situations. When the Doctor from Voyager goes back in time and materializes in a 20th century office, the writers didn't just leave it like that, they provided an explanation as to how he can materialize. There's also this strange feeling that a lot of the technology feels out of place. They always try to juxtapose this outdated stuff like the communicators and the tricorders with this really advanced new technology like the Stamets visualizing thingy. I don't know. It's just weird. Also, the shuttle bay doesn't have any doors, and that bugs me. I don't know. It's just annoying. You get the point I'm trying to make. The episode, much like all of Discovery so far, is polluted by a never-ending stream of refusal to even try to make sense. But despite that, this episode at least had a certain entertainment value to it, which means it wasn't bad. It was watchable and enjoyable. Add to that on a technical level, it was on point. The visual effects are outstanding, the sets as well, the makeup is top-notch. I found Kurtzman's direction to be very good. You actually have yourself some decent TV. Not groundbreaking TV, granted, but a good hour of entertainment, just as long as you're willing to overlook those certain details. Okay, that's enough opinions for one day. Let's dive into the Easter eggs and references. Believe me, there's a lot to cover. You get the point. I like the episode. It's not bad. Starting with everything the Cage, Pike, and USS Enterprise related, it stated that the USS Enterprise crew complement is 203. This aligns itself perfectly with what is said in the Cage. Captain Pike's record comes up on the view screen, and among the things listed are his awards and medals. The Star Cross, the Legion of Honor, and the Okuda Award are all seen in The Next Generation. The Carrington Award was in Deep Space Nine, and for some strange reason, he's been decorated with the Legate's Crest of Valor, as seen in Voyager. But if I'm not mistaken, that is a Cardassian award, so that's intriguing. Pike's file also lists medical leave due to laceration, a clear reference to the incident on Rigel 7. Pike himself mentions Mojave, which the Cage established as his hometown, and he uses the words hit it as an order to get the ship going. This is most likely a reference to the Kelvin timeline Pike who said punch it. Commander Nhan is pretty clearly a Barzan. The race has been seen before in The Next Generation, and though it isn't official at all, some have speculated that Lieutenant Connolly here has already been present in the Cage. Some are saying this guy could be him. As I said, it is just speculation, and I doubt it was intentional, but it would be a nice tie-in. To finish off with Pike, he finds a fortune cookie in Lorca's old ready room, and it reads, "Not every cage is a prison, not every loss eternal." The cage not being a prison is clearly a reference foreshadowing what will eventually happen to him in the original series. We now move on to Spock. When he's in his room on Vulcan, we see a three-dimensional chess set. I don't even know if this still counts as an Easter egg at this point because, I mean, it's become such an iconic prop. It pops up everywhere in Star Trek all the time. It's kind of like a lightsaber. Anyway, we see it again later in Spock's quarters aboard the USS Enterprise. We also see his famous lute and the bells from Amok Time. Generally speaking, these quarters look nothing like his quarters from the original series, but they are clearly made to be a visual representation of them. You've got the dividing wall, the red, the big 3F on the door, which are all there to show you this is the same place, no matter what you think. We get a few shout-outs to existing Star Trek species. Lieutenant Connolly talks about having a Cation roommate. Reno mentions a Bolian, and my boy from the Turbolift here is a Saurian. Technology-wise, I think everyone noticed the transporter chief is wearing an apparatus similar to Geordi's visor, but this one is not only way bigger, it's also covering up part of his head. I think it's fun to speculate that this is the same technology, but much older, so he needs the headpiece and the boldness to help his old-school visor connect with his brainwaves. As I mentioned earlier, this episode also features pattern enhancers, but just like the visor, they're made to look older in design. Stamets rolls up with a flux coupler at some point, which is technobabble that has already been mentioned in Deep Space Nine and Enterprise, though the tech looks a little different. Starbase 36, mentioned here by Reno, was brought up first in The Next Generation, and among the new details from the now slightly changed title sequence appears the name Emery Erickson next to the transporter pad, a clear reference to the Enterprise episode where Erickson actually is present working on the transporter. There's also the Vulcan Idic symbol, a now very common Vulcan Easter egg. There's also a mention of blood wine later in the episode, the famous Klingon drink. And to finish this all off, the one not so Star Trek Easter egg is the USS Hawaii's registry, NCC 815. That's a reference to the flight number of the plane that crashes in the pilot of Lost. If you're wondering why that random connection was made, I'm betting it's because Alex Kurtzman has often been associated with J.J. Abrams, and J.J. Abrams was the one who directed that episode of Lost. And there you go. That's all of it, I think. If you found something else worth mentioning, please do so in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Before I go, let me announce the winner of the DVD giveaway, Dale Sexton. Congratulations. We'll be getting in contact shortly so I can send that over as soon as possible. Remember to like, subscribe. Again, thank you so much for watching, and as usual, live long and prosper.